Stop and listen. This message is not for everyone. This is a message for the rare soul who has walked through silent battles, for the one who kept going when no one saw, for the one who carried silent pain, hidden from the world. You did not find this by accident. God himself brought you here, because he has something to say to you. Right now, you didn't know it, but what you just survived was not ordinary. It was a sacred test, a divine refinement no one witnessed, no one applauded. Yet every tear you cried alone, every step you took forward when despair pulled at your soul, every silent choice you made to trust when it made no sense, heaven recorded it all. Many are called, few are chosen, not because others were weaker, but because very few endure faithfully to the end without recognition. You did. That's why this message reaches you now. You are one of the rare ones. Listen carefully. What awaits you next is not a reward. It is a sacred entrusting, a weight of purpose placed only on those proven by fire, marked in secret, refined without applause. This is no longer about survival. It is about destiny. Keep listening, because what God is about to unfold in your life will not make sense to the world. But heaven knows exactly who you are and why you were called. You thought it was just another hard season, just another stretch of silence, another round of disappointments, another cycle of prayers that seemed to vanish into thin air. But what you didn't know was that heaven was watching, not the public you, not the version of you that others interact with. Heaven was watching the quiet version, the one who whispers prayers through trembling lips, the one who doesn't post victories because there weren't any, the one who still lifted your eyes upward even when your heart wanted to collapse. God didn't announce the test ahead of time. He didn't explain what he was measuring, because if he had, the weight of it might have crushed you. So he let you walk through what looked like ordinary struggles, but they were anything but ordinary. These were divine thresholds, sacred filters, eternity-sized evaluations dressed in everyday pain. People saw a tired face. God saw a warrior staying faithful in the fog. People saw a season of waiting. Heaven saw a soul being forged into something rare. You didn't break, even when you could have. You didn't abandon hope, even when it mocked you. You kept holding on when everything in you screamed to let go. That wasn't weakness. That was worship. That wasn't random survival. That was refined trust. Do you know how rare that is? Most people begin strong. They shout praises when the fire first starts. But as it lingers, as the silence stretches, as the answers delay, their hearts fade, their worship dims, their faith cracks. But not you. And no, it's not because you had more strength. It's because you had more surrender. You didn't outpower the pain. You outlasted it, not by force, by faith. God saw it. Every time you said yes in the dark. Every time you chose to believe without clarity. Every time you stayed planted when the soil felt dry. Every whisper of surrender, every drop of trust became incense that rose before the throne. And heaven took note. This wasn't just another difficulty. It was a hidden proving ground, a test the crowd didn't know about, one only God could measure, one only a few pass. And you passed. God didn't need you to be perfect. He needed you to stay. He didn't need bold declarations. He needed quiet consistency. He didn't need performance. He needed purity. And that's what he saw. While others demanded signs, you stayed even when there were none. While others walked away when hope felt dangerous, you dared to keep hoping. You didn't demand explanations. You gave him your trust. That's why he's speaking now. You proved yourself in the silence. You proved yourself in the pain. You proved yourself in the delay. And now heaven has shifted. Because of your private obedience, a public manifestation has been activated. This is not a reward. This is a release. Not because you earned it, but because you were ready for it. God has been preparing something that couldn't be handed out casually. Something heavy. Something holy. And now that your spirit has proven trustworthy, he's opening doors that no man can shut. You didn't even know you were being watched. But angels were standing beside you in those tear-soaked rooms. Demons were silenced not by your shouting, but by your standing. Darkness trembled not because of your strength, but because of your surrender. That's why what's coming will be different. Not louder, not flashier, but deeper, weightier, Eternal. This is why the veil is lifting, why clarity is coming, why doors are opening. You didn't chase after this. It's chasing after you, not for your comfort, but for your calling, not for applause, but for assignment. You didn't survive for survival's sake. You survived because your purpose demanded it. What God is about to entrust you with isn't just for your benefit. It's for those still trapped in the place you already passed through. You're not just a survivor. You're a vessel, and vessels must be tested before they are trusted. The test is over. The verdict is in. Heaven has spoken. You passed. Now, the weight of that yes you whispered in the valley is unlocking realms you didn't even know existed. The very place where you wept in silence is now becoming the ground where His glory will erupt. That private altar, built with pain and persistence, is about to become a platform, not for performance, but for power, not for your name, for His. And hear this, there will be resistance, not because you're in the wrong place, but because you're finally in the right one. The enemy knew what was forming inside you. That's why the attack came so hard, so constant, so targeted. But you didn't flinch. You didn't give up. You didn't fold. You stayed. You pressed in. And now, God is pressing back in your favor. Your faith has summoned a move of God that cannot be reversed. There's no going back now. The door has opened from the other side. What you carried in silence will now be carried with authority. Others will be confused. Let them. Others will ask how it happened. Tell them, grace. Others will wonder why now. Say, because God saw what no one else could. You didn't ask for visibility. You just wanted to be faithful. And because of that, He's making what was hidden undeniable. But don't get distracted. What's next is weighty. And only the posture that brought you here can carry what's coming. Stay low. Stay surrendered. Stay anchored. God is not done. He's just begun. This isn't the finish line. It's the beginning of the real assignment. And He chose you, not because you were strong, but because you stayed surrendered. Now walk boldly. Heaven is behind you. You are one of the rare ones. What you thought was unnoticed was fully seen. What you believed was ignored was being recorded by heaven. Nothing you endured was wasted. Nothing you suffered slipped past the gaze of the one who called you. The weight you carried in secret, the nights you spent questioning, the tears you had behind closed doors, all of it was witnessed by the eyes that never sleep. Heaven wasn't watching to see if you failed. Heaven wasn't watching to catch you falling short. Heaven was watching to confirm your faith, to measure your endurance, to weigh your surrender. Because there are things God cannot entrust to someone who hasn't been to the fire and remained faithful. You were being observed not by crowds, but by angels. Not by people, but by eternity itself. The test was never about punishment. It was about preparation. Your life has been a testimony written in unseen ink, written in the hours when you could have walked away, but didn't, written in the moments when giving up seemed justified, but you whispered, "Still, I trust you." Every yes you spoke in the dark became a seed sown into eternity. And now, those seeds are breaking through the soil. You didn't see it then, but every choice mattered. Every tear watered something sacred. Every painful step forward paved ground for breakthrough. While others abandoned their posts, you remained. While others sought shortcuts, you stayed steady. While others demanded signs, you stayed planted in silence. Heaven noticed. You were not overlooked. You were being observed with tenderness, with care, with expectation. Not because God needed to prove Himself, but because He was proving you. He was proving what was already placed inside of you. And child, you passed. Not because you got everything right. Not because you never stumbled. You passed because you stayed. You passed because you trusted. You passed because you let surrender speak louder than your pain. You didn't just survive seasons. You steward them. You didn't just endure storms. You worshiped through them. You didn't just keep breathing. You kept believing. And heaven has declared, enough, it's time. Time to see what was hidden. Time to unlock what was promised. Time to step into what was always waiting on the other side of endurance. Do you understand how rare that is? Most don't make it this far. Most faint in the waiting. Most compromise when comfort fades. Most settle when the promise delays. But you didn't. You chose faith over frustration. You chose purity over popularity. You chose trust over timelines. And that choice, not made loudly, not made publicly, shifted things in the spirit that no force can undo. Because of your faithfulness in obscurity, God is bringing you into visibility, not for your glory, for His, not to exalt you, to exalt His name through you. The world won't understand this. Let them wonder. Let them ask. Let them question. You owe no explanation for what God is doing. They didn't see the tears. They didn't hear the prayers. They didn't feel the weight. But God did. And now He is responding, not out of pity, out of purpose, not as a reward, as a release. Because what you endured in private is now ready to be revealed in public. This is not the kind of breakthrough that comes with noise. This is not the kind of favor that needs applause. This is a kind of shift that moves quietly but carries weight. The kind that opens doors without knocking. The kind that unlocks realms others only talk about. Because what was formed in silence carries authority no platform can give. What you carry now is not ordinary. You were marked by endurance, forged in faith, refined by surrender. And heaven honors that. Doors are opening not because you force them, because God Himself has commanded them to. Paths are clearing not because you fought harder, because heaven has gone before you. Resources are aligning not because you campaigned, because God has spoken your name in rooms you haven't entered yet. And still, this isn't about you. It's about the lives attached to your obedience, the chains that will break because you didn't quit, the hearts that will heal because you didn't walk away, the territories that will shift because you chose trust over retreat. You were never just surviving for yourself. You were paving paths for others. You were writing a legacy of faith beneath the surface while the world wasn't watching. But heaven was. And now, heaven moves on your behalf. The battles you fought quietly are releasing victories loudly. The tears you cried alone are now watering fields you will harvest in joy. The prayers you whisper in exhaustion are now creating waves of miracles you couldn't imagine. Because that's what God does. He honors the unseen. He rewards the faithful. He vindicates the surrendered. You're about to walk into places you didn't chase. You're about to carry assignments you didn't seek. Not because you performed, but because you endured. Others will try to understand. They won't. Others will question your sudden rise. Let them. They don't know the cost. But heaven knows. You walked through fire and didn't burn. You stayed through storms and didn't drown. You worshiped through wilderness and didn't turn back. And now, the season has shifted. What was once delayed is now released. What was once hidden is now revealed. What was once waiting is now moving. Not because time passed, because you passed the test. Heaven's attention was on you the entire time, not to catch you failing, to catch you faithful. And now, the faithful are being rewarded, not with fame, with fulfillment, not with comfort, with calling, not with applause, with authority, because God doesn't elevate those who perform. He elevates those who persevere. You persevered, and now heaven releases. Prepare yourself. What's coming is not small. What's opening is not fragile. What's unfolding is not temporary. It's eternal, and it carries weight. The kind of weight that requires the same posture that brought you here. Humility, reverence, surrender. Stay low, stay yielded, stay hidden in His heart. Because what's beginning now is not the climax. It's the commencement. You were called for this. You were shaped for this. You were hidden for this. Now it's time to step in. The gates are open. The path is clear. The assignments await. Heaven was watching all along. Everything around you may still seem unchanged, but in the spirit, the shift has already begun. What heaven releases is not always visible at first glance. The earth responds slower than eternity moves. But mark this. What God has spoken over you is already in motion. The atmosphere is changing, whether you see it yet or not. The doors have been commanded to open. The chains have been ordered to break. The path beneath your feet is aligning with what God wrote over your life long before you ever asked for confirmation. The shift didn't begin when you noticed it. It began when you chose to stay faithful. Heaven doesn't operate by visible signs. Heaven responds to obedience. And your obedience, quiet, consistent, unseen, has triggered a release you cannot undo. You prayed for the breakthrough. You waited for the answer. You asked for the clarity. But what's coming is bigger than what you prayed for. What's opening is wider than what you believed possible. Because God was never preparing just a blessing. He was preparing you. You thought the silence was proof you were forgotten. But the silence was your invitation into depths few are willing to enter. In that silence, God was shaping your hearing, training your trust, sharpening your discernment, teaching you to recognize His whisper above the noise of the world. Now, because you learned to listen when there was no sound, you'll hear Him clearly when He speaks through the chaos. Because you chose to stay when others left, you'll walk through doors others never found. Because you trusted when there was no timeline, you'll see provision others never believed existed. The shift isn't coming. The shift is here. Not because you forced it. Not because you manipulated it. Not because you demanded it. Because you waited well. And few know how to wait well. Most people run ahead when answers delay. Most grasp for alternatives when doors remain closed. Most grow bitter when timelines are stretched. But not you. You stayed surrendered. You chose stillness over striving. You chose faith over frustration. You chose reverence over resentment. That choice carries weight in the unseen. That choice activates realms unseen by human eyes. That choice moves the hand of God. You thought you were just enduring another long season, but heaven was watching how you waited, and your waiting became worship. Your patience became prophecy. Your surrender became strategy. That's why things are about to move suddenly. That's why what felt stagnant is about to surge. That's why what seemed delayed is about to accelerate. Not because circumstances changed. Because you did. God doesn't release promises to the impatient. He entrusts them to the faithful. And your faithfulness has opened what force never could. Listen carefully. This isn't about your feelings. This isn't about what makes sense on paper. This isn't about what others say is possible. This is about what God has already decreed. His word will not return void. His timing is never off. His plan was never threatened by the opinions of people. You didn't miss it. You didn't delay it. You didn't ruin it. You're right on schedule with heaven. That's why the atmosphere is shifting. That's why favor is finding you. That's why provision is aligning. Not because you manipulated circumstances, because you aligned your spirit. The obedience you offered in private is now unlocking doors in public. The yes you whisper in the dark is now echoing in places you haven't entered yet. The surrender you gave with tears is now writing your next chapter with favor. But hear this. The shift requires your posture to remain the same. Stay humble. Stay surrendered. Stay expectant. Do not let pride creep in. Do not let fear steal your gaze. Do not let impatience plant seeds of doubt. What God is doing doesn't require your control. It requires your trust. You've been entrusted with something sacred, something weighty, something eternal. This next phase is not about being seen. It's about being faithful. It's about carrying His presence, not performing for people. It's about stewarding His glory, not seeking applause. It's about obedience over opportunity, purity over platform, reverence over recognition. Because what's coming carries responsibility. You're not being elevated for comfort. You're being positioned for purpose. The places you'll go, the people you'll impact, the doors that will open, they are not about you. They are about the kingdom. You were hidden for a reason. You were refined for a purpose. You were kept in obscurity so you wouldn't be destroyed by visibility. Now, because you've proven trustworthy, God is releasing you into realms others forfeited through disobedience. He is positioning you in places prepared long ago for this moment. You didn't chase the opportunity. You chased His presence. You enforced the timing. You trusted His pace. You didn't manipulate the outcome. You surrendered the process. And because of that, you're walking into favor you didn't earn. You're stepping into assignments you didn't orchestrate. You're carrying authority you didn't manufacture. Because you were faithful when no one clapped. Because you endured when no one noticed. Because you believed when no one confirmed. Heaven honors faith like that. and now the earth must respond. The shift is not just spiritual. It's practical. It's tangible. It's visible. Doors will open. Resources will align. Connections will find you. Opportunities will chase you. Because obedience attracts what striving cannot. Because surrender unlocks what effort never could. This is not the fruit of performance. This is the harvest of perseverance. You stayed planted when the soil felt barren. You watered your faith with tears. You guarded your heart when bitterness knocked. You trusted the process when progress seemed invisible. And now, the harvest is undeniable. What was once delayed is now delivered. What was once withheld is now released. What was once hidden is now revealed. Because God finishes what he starts. And what he started in you was never small. It was never fragile. It was never temporary. It was eternal. It was holy. It was prepared for such a time as this. Now move forward without fear. Walk boldly without apology. Step into what's opening without hesitation. Not because you deserve it, because you were made for it. The shift has already begun. What others call impossible, you walk through with nothing but faith. What broke others refined you. What caused many to quit prepared you. What others called wasted years, God calls a foundation for your assignment. Every silent battle shapes something in you that cannot be taken away. Every unanswered question deep in your roots where no storm can uproot them. You didn't just survive storms. You learned how to find his presence within them. You didn't just walk through fire. You learned how to worship while surrounded by flames. You didn't just endure attacks. You discover how to trust deeper when defenses seem gone. What others feared, you faced. What others fled, you stood through. And heaven watched. The world applauds quick victories. God honors quiet endurance. You weren't chosen because you were loud. You were chosen because you were faithful. You weren't set apart because you demanded attention. You were marked because you stayed surrendered. The battle wasn't meant to destroy you. It was meant to reveal you. It showed heaven that you wouldn't run when things got hard. It showed darkness that you wouldn't quit when pressure rose. It showed God that you wouldn't abandon him when the silence stretched too long. That is why this moment has arrived. The refining has ended. The proving is complete. Heaven's decree has been released over your life. Ready, not perfect, not polished. Ready to carry what others couldn't. Ready to walk where others refused. Ready to steward what others mishandled. This wasn't about talent. It wasn't about gifts. It wasn't about opportunities. This was about your posture, your surrender, your obedience, your willingness to lay down pride and pick up purpose. And you did. That's why God is trusting you with more. What broke others made you bold. What silenced others gave you strength. What discouraged others gave you discernment. Because you didn't seek escape. You sought endurance. You didn't ask to be rescued. You asked to be refined. That's rare. And rare is what God uses when he wants to shift atmospheres. Now, because you proved trustworthy in the private battles, God is preparing to release you into public purpose. Not for show, for souls, not for applause, for authority, not for validation, for kingdom impact. The mantle you now carry was forged in hidden places, in the rooms where no one clapped, in the moments when no one affirmed, in the seasons when no one understood. God understood. He saw every breakdown, every surrender, every whispered prayer through tears, every decision to believe even when doubt screamed louder, and heaven honored it. Because while others ran ahead seeking platforms, you knelt in hidden places seeking his face. While others demanded answers, you chose reverence. While others manipulated moments, you remained pure. And now, what is opening cannot be stopped. Doors others tried to break, they will swing open for you without effort. Places others fought to enter will invite you without striving. Opportunities others chase will find you without force. Because obedience attracts what ambition cannot. Because surrender unlocks what pride never will. What was once heavy will now feel holy. What was once burdensome will now feel blessed. What once felt like punishment will now reveal itself as preparation. Because God doesn't waste pain. He doesn't waste seasons. He doesn't waste surrender. Every step you took through that unseen battle was writing the testimony others will one day read. Every tear was watering ground that will soon burst forth with life. Every quiet yes was opening pathways in the spirit. This is why you couldn't quit. This is why doors stayed closed until now. This is why God kept you hidden. Because what's about to be released couldn't come too soon. Your heart had to be ready. Your posture had to be pure. Your spirit had to be steady. And now it is, the battle refined you. The battle defined you. The battle prepared you. You thought you were being delayed. You were being developed. You thought you were overlooked. You were being observed. You thought you were forgotten. You were being fortified. And now, because you endured, because you surrendered, because you trusted beyond what made sense, God is moving, not slowly, not cautiously, suddenly connections, suddenly favor, suddenly provision, suddenly assignments, suddenly doors that lead to places you didn't even pray for because you didn't know to ask. But God knew. He knew where you were going before you knew how to walk through the waiting. He knew what you needed before you asked. He knew the timeline when you questioned the silence. And now, because the time has come, nothing can stop what is unfolding. Don't second guess it. Don't hesitate. Don't wonder if you're worthy. You're not here because of worthiness. You're here because of readiness. God doesn't call the perfect. He calls the prepared. And you, beloved, are prepared. Prepare to walk in rooms you once watched from afar. Prepare to carry assignments that once felt impossible. Prepare to speak with authority born not of knowledge, but of nearness. Because what you carry isn't theory. It's testimony. What you've lived through gives your words weight. What you've survived gives your presence authority. What you've endured gives your faith strength. And now, others will see what heaven saw all along. You are not rising by accident. You are not stepping forward by coincidence. You are not moving ahead by luck. You are walking in alignment. Alignment with His Word. Alignment with His will. Alignment with His timing. Stay anchored. Stay surrendered. Stay faithful. Because this is only the beginning. The battle that broke others didn't break you. It built you, and heaven is responding. There is a moment in every believer's journey when the silence breaks, when heaven, which seemed quiet for so long, begins to speak openly, when what was once hidden becomes undeniable, when what was once endured in secret becomes honored in plain sight. That moment has come for you. God is no longer just watching. He is now declaring what you carried silently. Heaven is announcing boldly. What you whispered in prayer, angels are echoing aloud. What you held on to in private, God is now moving publicly, not for your applause, for His glory, not to lift your name, to magnify His. You didn't strive for this. You didn't manipulate your way here. You waited. You trusted. You stayed. And because of that, God is speaking where you could not, moving where you could not, opening where you dared not even knock. Heaven's voice carries authority no man can match. When heaven speaks on your behalf, opposition must fall silent. When God commands doors open, no force can keep them shut. When heaven moves resources into alignment, no enemy can block the supply. This is not favoritism. This is fulfillment. Fulfillment of promises made in secret places. Fulfillment of words whispered when your faith felt fragile. Fulfillment of destiny written before time began. You are walking into spaces already prepared for you. Spaces where your name was spoken before you ever arrived. Spaces where heaven's favor paved paths you couldn't see. Spaces where your obedience made room long before you understood why you stayed faithful. The tables are turning, not slowly, swiftly. What was withheld is now released. What was resisted is now surrendered. What was opposed is now aligned. Because heaven has spoken. And when heaven speaks, everything must shift. You thought you were waiting on opportunity, but opportunity was waiting on your maturity. You thought you were waiting on provision, but provision was waiting on your posture. You thought you were waiting on answers, but answers were waiting on your alignment. And now, because your heart is postured rightly, because your faith has been refined thoroughly, because your surrender has been proven completely, heaven is moving undeniably. Watch as things begin to unfold without effort. Watch as connections find you without striving. Watch as favor locates you without manipulation. Not because you earned it, because you endured for it. Heaven honors endurance. Heaven rewards faithfulness. Heaven responds to obedience. This is not about what you did. It's about who you became. Who you became through the fire. Who you became through the silence. Who you became through the battle. And heaven calls that person ready. Ready to carry what others couldn't. Ready to withstand what others won't. Ready to steward what others forfeited. Because what's being released is weighty. Not everyone can carry it. Not everyone can hold it without it crushing them. But you've been prepared. Not because of your strength. Because of your surrender. Your yes wasn't loud, but it was lasting. Your obedience wasn't flashy, but it was firm. Your faith wasn't perfect, but it was persevering. And heaven sees value in that. You're stepping into a season where things will happen faster than you asked for, where blessings will overtake you before you finish praying, where provision will arrive before you finish worrying. Not because of who you are, because of whose you are. You belong to the one who honors his word. You belong to the one who vindicates the faithful. You belong to the one who keeps his promises beyond what you can comprehend. And now, heaven is announcing what you carried in secret. Heaven is endorsing what you stewarded in private. Heaven is releasing what you trusted God for in the waiting. But guard your heart. Stay low. Stay humble. Stay surrendered. Because this isn't about platforms. This isn't about popularity. This isn't about promotion. This is about purpose. Purpose that requires purity. Purpose that demands reverence. Purpose that needs surrender more than strategy. The favor you're walking into isn't about ease. It's about impact. It's about souls. It's about territories. It's about kingdom. And the weight of it cannot be carried casually. Stay in the posture that brought you here. Stay in the presence that refined you. Stay in the surrender that protected you. Because what's coming will require more faith, not less. More trust, not more talent. More purity, not more performance. Heaven isn't just opening doors. Heaven is releasing assignments. Assignments that require discernment. Assignments that demand humility. Assignments that will stretch your obedience further than before. But you're ready. Heaven says so. The silence you thought was rejection was actually preparation. The delay you thought was denial was actually protection. The wilderness you thought was punishment was actually positioning. And now heaven speaks. Heaven moves. Heaven releases. Walk boldly, but walk humbly. Speak confidently, but speak purely. Move forward, but stay anchored. Because heaven's yes over your life is louder than any no spoken against you. Because heaven's timing is more precise than any plan you try to make. Because heaven's purpose is more secure than any doubt you battled. Now is not the time to shrink back. Now is not the time to question what God has confirmed. Now is the time to move forward without apology. Not because you deserve this, because you were prepared for this. Heaven speaks on your behalf now. This moment you're entering was not an accident. It wasn't a coincidence. It wasn't luck. It wasn't random favor falling out of the sky. This was written over your life before you took your first breath. It was always meant for you. But heaven had to ensure you were truly ready. Not ready in strength. Ready in surrender. Not ready in knowledge. Ready in faith. Not ready in ambition. Ready in obedience. That's why the road was long. That's why the waiting was painful. That's why the silence stretched beyond your understanding. Because what you're about to carry couldn't be handed to just anyone. It had to be placed in the hands of someone tested, someone trusted, someone proven faithful when nothing made sense. You are that person. You didn't realize it then, but every season where you wondered, why am I still here, was God whispering, because I'm still preparing you. Every delay wasn't denial. It was protection. Every closed door wasn't punishment. It was alignment. Every moment of silence wasn't abandonment. It was an invitation to trust deeper, to worship purer, to surrender fuller. Now, because you stayed when others ran, because you trusted when others doubted, because you believed when others quit, you are walking into what was always meant for you. You didn't chase this. You didn't strive for this. You didn't manipulate your way here. You simply aligned yourself with heaven's timing, And now heaven is responding. What's ahead is not small. It's not shallow. It's not fleeting. It's weighty. It's holy. It's sacred. And it's tailored to the one who passed through fire and came out refined, not burned. This is why you couldn't quit. This is why you couldn't walk away. This is why the door stayed shut until now. Because what's opening wasn't just for anyone. It was for you. Others may wonder how you arrived here. Let them. Others may question why now. Let them. Others may try to explain it away. Let them. You don't owe anyone an explanation for God's timing over your life. What they call sudden was years in the making. What they call easy was built through battles no one else saw. What they call favor was forged through fires you never broadcast. Heaven knows. Heaven watched. Heaven approved. And now heaven releases. You are walking into places prepared for your obedience. Not for your talent. Not for your connections. For your surrender. You are stepping on the ground made ready by the tears you cried, the prayers you whispered, the faith you refused to abandon. What's ahead requires boldness, yes. But more than that, it requires purity. It requires discernment. It requires humility. Because this isn't about being seen. It's about being sent. You're not stepping into opportunity. You're stepping into assignment. Assignment for souls. Assignment for territories. Assignment for atmospheres. Assignment for kingdom purposes greater than you imagined. You weren't hidden to be forgotten. You were hidden to be preserved. Preserved from pride. Preserved from distraction. Preserved from detours. And now, because your heart has been purified through process, God can trust you with more. What you carry now isn't light. It's heavy with purpose. Heavy with responsibility. Heavy with eternity's weight. But you're ready. You didn't think you'd survive some seasons. But you did. You didn't think you'd keep believing through some nights. But you did. You didn't think you'd still be standing after some battles. But you are. Not because of strength. Because of surrender. Not because of perfection. Because of perseverance. Not because of performance. Because of purity. And heaven honors that. Doors are opening because heaven has declared it time. Resources are aligning because heaven has called it necessary. People are being drawn because heaven has marked this moment. Not because of you, because of the one who sent you. You carry his name. You carry his promise. You carry his authority. And you carry his heart. That's why you've been entrusted with this. Because it's not about what you'll gain. It's about what he'll accomplish through you. Stay focused. Stay humble. Stay anchored. What you're walking into requires the same posture that brought you here. Reverence, obedience, faithfulness. Because what's ahead will stretch you deeper. It will call you higher. It will demand more surrender, not less. But you're ready. You've been prepared. You've been positioned. And now heaven says, go. Go without fear. Go without apology. Go without hesitation. You've been released. You've been commissioned. You've been anointed for this. The people you'll impact, the doors you'll enter, the ground you'll claim, all of it was waiting for your yes. And now, because you said yes in the valley, God is opening paths on the mountain. Move forward. Step boldly. Carry it well, because you're not just walking into blessing. You're walking into purpose. What God has placed within you cannot be stolen, not by people, not by circumstance, not by the enemy. You can receive this lightly. It wasn't handed to you because of luck. It wasn't given because you asked loud enough. It was forged through fire, through tears, through surrender, through seasons that others could not have endured. And because of that, no one can take it from you. You don't walk forward, now holding something fragile. You walk carrying something eternal. Something that cannot be shaken by opinion. Something that cannot be stolen by envy. Something that cannot be destroyed by warfare. It's been sealed in heaven. It's been written in eternity. It's been entrusted to you. What you carry is not just calling. It's confirmation. It's authority. It's anointing. It's evidence of what God does through those who refuse to quit. They didn't see the nights you stayed faithful when nothing made sense. They didn't see the battles you fought when giving up seemed easier. They didn't hear the prayers you whispered when fear screamed louder. But heaven did. And heaven declared, "You are ready, ready to carry what others forfeited, ready to steward what others mishandled, ready to hold what others tried to shortcut. Because you didn't chase this. You chased him. You didn't manipulate for this. You waited for him. You didn't demand this. You surrendered to him. And now, because of that, you walk with something weightier than titles. You carry trust. Heaven's trust. God's trust. The trust of the one who knows what it costs to endure in silence. What you carry now cannot be explained by natural terms. It can't be mapped on a timeline. It can't be measured by metrics. It was born in places only heaven could see. It was built in moments only eternity recorded. This is why doors open without knocking. This is why provision aligns without striving. This is why people are drawn to what you carry, not because of charisma, but because of consecration. You carry something sacred, and sacred cannot be stolen. Guard it well. Protect it with purity. Cover it with prayer. Steward it with humility. Because what you carry isn't about your comfort. It's about your calling. It's about those still trapped in the places you've already passed through. It's about breaking chains for others, unlocking paths for those who have yet to believe it's possible. What you carry carries weight beyond you. It's generational. It's territorial. It's eternal. And with it comes responsibility. Responsibility to stay surrendered. Responsibility to remain pure. Responsibility to walk lightly. Knowing the weight isn't yours to carry alone. God entrusted this to you, but he carries it with you. That's why fear has no place here. That's why insecurity cannot speak louder than faith. That's why comparison loses its grip now. You don't need to prove yourself. You've already been approved, not by people, by heaven. Walk in that assurance. Move forward in that authority. Speak from that confidence. Because what you carry now is not light. It's not small. It's not fleeting. It's holy. And what is holy, heaven protects. The battles ahead will recognize what you carry. The doors ahead will open because of what you carry. The people ahead will receive because of what you carry. But remember, this was never about you. It was about the one who trusted you with it. Stay in his presence. Stay under his covering. Stay aligned with his timing. Because what ahead will demand the same posture that brought you here. Humility over pride. Obedience over opportunity. Purity over platform. You are not here to perform. You are here to release. Release his words. Release his truth. Release his freedom. Because you carry his spirit. You carry his message. You carry his heart. And heaven backs those who carry well. Let others wonder. Let others question. Let others speculate. You don't owe them explanation. Your obedience speaks louder than words. Your endurance speaks louder than doubt. Your faith speaks louder than fear. Keep walking. Keep trusting. Keep carrying. Because what you carry cannot be taken from you. It was placed there by God himself. Everything you carried in silence is about to speak for itself. Every tear you sowed in private is about to bloom in public. The weight you bore when no one understood, the choices you made when no one supported, the faith you kept when no one believed, all of it is about to bear fruit. Not because the world finally noticed, because heaven has ordained this moment. You are about to see the evidence of endurance. This was never just about survival. It was about stewardship. You steward pain with purity. You steward confusion with worship. You steward the unknown with surrender. And now, what you carried is turning into something tangible. This is a season where what you whisper will be shouted from rooftops. Not your story. His glory. Not your strength. His faithfulness. Not your name. His goodness. The evidence is coming not to validate you. It's coming to magnify him. To show what heaven does through those who refuse to quit. Through those who stay when leaving seems easier. Through those who worship when silence feels suffocating. Through those who keep going, even when the end isn't in sight. The harvest was never in question. The timing was. Now the timing has aligned. The seeds you sowed through tears are breaking through the soil. The prayers you spoke through trembling lips are taking root. The promises you clung to through weary nights are rising. And none of it was wasted. None of it was overlooked. None of it was forgotten. Heaven recorded it all. Heaven watered it all. Heaven protected it all. And now heaven is revealing it all. But don't lose focus. Don't let the evidence distract you from the purpose. Don't let the fruit cause you to forget the faith it took to plant those seeds. Stay anchored. Stay humble. Stay surrendered. Because the evidence will attract attention. People will notice. People will ask. People will wonder, how did this happen? How did you survive? How did you keep believing? Let them ask. And when they do, point to him. Point to the one who sustained you. Point to the one who strengthened you. Point to the one who promised, who prepared, who provided. Because this was never about proving people wrong. It was about proving heaven right. You were always called. You were always chosen. You were always marked. But now, the evidence will show it. You won't need to defend yourself. You won't need to explain yourself. You won't need to justify where God is taking you. The evidence will speak. The favor will confirm. The fruit will validate. Because what's seen now is built on what was unseen then. The silent sacrifices, the quiet prayers, the hidden obedience, the private worship. It all laid the foundation for what's rising. This isn't sudden. This isn't luck. This isn't random. This is heaven fulfilling its word. You stayed when others left. You believed when others doubted. You trusted when others mocked. And now, heaven is rewarding faithfulness, not with fame, with fulfillment, not with attention, with alignment, not with recognition, with revelation. The evidence will reveal what words cannot. The atmosphere will shift because of what you carry. The doors will open because of who sent you. The people will listen because of who backs you. And none of it will make sense to the world. Let it not, because this isn't a worldly promotion. This is a kingdom assignment. Kingdom assignments come with kingdom backing. Kingdom assignments carry kingdom authority. Kingdom assignments shift kingdom territories. And that's what you've been prepared for. To carry something heavier than applause. To steward something holier than recognition. To walk with something weightier than approval. What you carry now is undeniable. What you release now is unstoppable. What you step into now is irreversible. Because heaven has spoken. Heaven has sealed it. Heaven has set you in place. And what God sets, no man can unsettle. Let the evidence speak. Let the fruit testify. Let the harvest reveal the faithfulness of your God. You don't need to strive. You don't need to prove. You don't need to chase. You simply need to carry it well. Because the evidence of your endurance is about to be seen. What others thought was closed off to you, God is opening. Not because you forced your way through. Not because you manipulated the moment. Simply because you stayed ready. You stayed surrendered. You stayed faithful, even when it looked like nothing was moving. While others chase opportunities, you chase his presence. While others chase platforms, you remained hidden beneath his hand. Now, because you stayed ready, heaven is opening what man tried to shut. These doors aren't opening out of sympathy. They're opening out of alignment. They were waiting for this version of you. The version refined by the waiting. The version strengthened by the silence. The version purified by surrender. The version matured through hiddenness. You didn't lose your way in the waiting. You found your foundation. You didn't lose your calling in the wilderness. You clarified your posture. You didn't lose your faith in the fire. You learned how to carry his heart through it. That's why the doors are opening. Not because of what you've done, because of who you became. These are not ordinary doors. They lead to assignments bigger than what you imagined. They lead to territories not marked by your name, but by his. They lead to spaces prepared for the pure, the surrendered, the steadfast. And now, because you stayed ready, you are stepping into what was reserved for the faithful. Not everyone gets here. Not everyone endures long enough to see this. But you did. You stayed when leaving seemed logical. You trusted when doubting seemed reasonable. You worshiped when quitting seemed justified. And heaven noticed. Heaven recorded. Heaven remembered. And now heaven is releasing. These doors won't require striving. They won't require self-promotion. They won't require explanation. They will recognize what you carry. They will respond to the authority forged through fire, through tears, through steadfast faith. What's behind these doors isn't ease. It's impact. It isn't applause. It's assignment. It isn't comfort. It's calling. And because you stayed ready, you'll carry it with reverence. Stay low. Stay surrendered. Stay pure. Because these doors require the same posture that opened them. This is not the finish line. It's a starting point for what God always intended to entrust to you. The preparation was necessary because the wait is real. The delay was necessary because the responsibility is holy. The wilderness was necessary because the calling is sacred. Others will marvel at the doors opening for you. Let them. Others will ask how it happened so fast. Let them wonder. They didn't see the years of hidden faithfulness. They didn't hear the prayers soaked in tears. They didn't feel the weight of staying when no one understood. But heaven did. And heaven responds to hearts like yours. These open doors aren't just opportunity. They're evidence. Evidence of God's faithfulness. Evidence of your endurance. Evidence of heaven's perfect timing. And with them comes access to people, to places, to assignments you couldn't have orchestrated on your own. Walk through boldly. Walk through humbly. Walk through knowing you carry heaven's yes. There's no room for doubt here. No space for insecurity. No need for apology. You are here because God says so. You are moving forward because heaven decreed it. You are stepping into what was written for you before time began. Let others debate. Let others discuss. Let others question. Your focus is not on defending this door. Your focus is on stewarding what waits beyond it. Because beyond these doors are souls attached to your obedience. Beyond these doors are territories assigned to your faith. Beyond these doors are victories won not just for you, but through you. Heaven trusted you with this because you stayed ready. Stay anchored. Stay obedient. Stay aligned. Because what's next requires not just readiness. It requires resilience. It requires reverence. It requires a heart that still whispers yes when no one is watching. You carry more than favor. You carry assignment. You carry responsibility. You carry His presence. And that's why these doors are opening, because you stayed ready. Now that you stand at the threshold of what was promised, you must remember this truth. It was never about you. From the beginning, from the first whispered prayer to the final door swinging open, this was always about Him, about His glory, about His kingdom, about His will on earth as it is in heaven. Your story is living proof of what God can do with a surrendered life. Your endurance became the vessel. Your surrender became the bridge. Your faithfulness became the key. But the outcome, the assignment, the impact, all of it points back to the one who authored every step. This is why you couldn't quit. This is why He kept you hidden. This is why the process took longer than you wanted, but just long enough for heaven to prepare you. Because what you carry now is not for show. It's for souls, not for your comfort, for His calling. Look back and see the evidence. Every closed door was His protection. Every delay was His preparation. Every battle was His refining. Every tear was watering seeds you couldn't yet see. Now, those seeds are breaking the surface. Now, the harvest is undeniable. But even as the fruit appears, remember, the fruit isn't the finish. It's the fuel. Fuel for obedience. Fuel for surrender. Fuel for deeper worship. You were entrusted with this not to elevate yourself, but to elevate His name. Not to build platforms, but to build people. Not to gather crowds, but to gather the lost. Your endurance wasn't wasted because now your endurance is unlocking freedom for others. What you carry breaks chains. What you speak brings life. What you release opens atmospheres. Because it was never just about your victory. It was about His victory through you. That's why this story must stay rooted in humility. That's why your heart must stay anchored in reverence. That's why your focus must stay fixed on Him. Doors are opening not to make your name great, but to make His name known. Opportunities are coming not to serve your ambitions, but to serve His purposes. Favor is finding you not to decorate your life, but to demonstrate His faithfulness. People will marvel. Let them. People will question. Let them. People will wonder how it happened. Point them to Him. Always Him. Because when the testimonies are written, let them say, it wasn't talent. It wasn't striving. It wasn't strategy. It was God. Only God. He took what was broken and made it whole. He took what was overlooked and called it chosen. He took what was surrendered and called it ready. Now, You walk forward not with entitlement, but with gratitude, not with pride, but with praise, not with arrogance, but with awe, because what's ahead would demand the same posture that brought you here. Low, bowed, reverent, surrendered. Stay close to his heart. Stay grounded in his word. Stay sensitive to his leading, because the assignment isn't over. It's only just begun. Greater doors, greater impact, greater responsibility, and with it, greater surrender, because the weight of glory cannot be carried casually. You've been trusted because you proved faithful. You've been released because you stayed surrendered. You've been sent because you stayed pure. Carry it well. Protect it fiercely. Steward humbly, because lives depend on your obedience. Atmospheres shift because of your surrender. Generations change because of your faith. And through it all, let the world see Jesus. In your words, in your choices, in your posture, in your worship. Let your life say what your mouth never needs to. This was never about me. It was always about him. And because you've honored him, he is now honoring you, not with ease, with purpose, not with comfort, with calling, not with applause, with authority, because you didn't quit, because you didn't walk away, because you didn't abandon your post. You stayed. And now heaven says, well done, walk boldly, speak fearlessly, love deeply, serve humbly, because what's ahead is not small, and neither is the one who called you.